marker right there, see? Now we've hit the redwoods here. Doesn't that look like a redwood trunk there? Now see the base of it down there? There's the root ball. And it's blown this direction just like the first tree. And if you look off to your right, the next one's laying the same direction as we continue around. Once again, the volcano is roughly 7 miles in that direction to the northeast. If that was all open, you'd see Mount St. Helena. But that's,
really?
as I said, that's not a volcano, but a remarker of where the volcano was. And you can see, look at the bark on it, there. Now, I'll tell you a story here about what happened. 3.4 million years ago, this was a coastal location.
Oh.
The ocean was roughly a mile away to the west, okay? And this was a dense redwood forest that grew here at the time. Coastal redwoods thrive near the coast, like the name implies, because they not only drink moisture out of the ground, but the little leaflets drink it out of the air too, so that's why they need that coastal moisture, okay? So that's why you see redwoods thrive from like, Big Sur up to the Oregon border near the coast. That's where you see them, okay? And at this time we were coastal. Okay, back then, about 7 miles to the northeast, there was an active volcano. It was part of what's referred to as the Sonoma Volcanics. The Sonoma Volcanics were roughly 3 to 6 million years ago, okay, in this whole region. That particular volcano erupted 3.4 million years ago. When it did, the concussion of the blast blew everything away from the blast of the volcano, as you see with these petrified trees. And this particular eruption was followed by a pyroclastic flow of volcanic ash. It came roaring this direction almost the speed of sound. In a matter of seconds, engulfed everything in this region with enormous amounts of hot volcanic ash. Estimated maybe 100 feet. Whose estimates here? 6 million years ago. But an enormous amount. Okay? And it buried everything in this region. Now, most things in the path of a pyroclastic flow will burn up immediately from the heat of that ash. But I don't know if you've noticed this, but the trunks of a redwood have a thick fire-resistant bark. You ever been to a redwood forest where fire's been through? You might have seen where the bark has been charred, but the tree's still there. That's because of that thick fire-resistant bark on the trunk. So that bark protected the trunks, and mostly just the trunks, from burning up immediately from the heat of that ash. Everything else burnt up, any wild animal or bush or tree. And except for the trunks of the trees. Now, even though they didn't burn up, the heat of that ash did start drying them out, okay? So there they are buried, drying out, everything else burnt up. And remember I said the ocean was nearby at the time, and back then the San Francisco Bay ran much further north. So because of this cataclysmic event, there was a lot of subsequent floodings that came in afterwards from the nearby water. So now water starts flooding in, and we're under the ocean now, we're underwater.
So 100
So you got
feet of ash.
We got about roughly 100 feet of ash, and floodings come on top of it. Okay? Now the water starts slowly seeping through that volcanic ash, and as it does so, it carried the minerals in the ash, predominantly silica. This eruption was known as a rhyolitic eruption, which has the most amounts of silica in the volcanic ash. There's other sorts of eruptions known as andesitic, or dacitic, or basaltic. All of those have lesser and lesser amounts of silica in their ash. But being a rhyolitic eruption, had enormous amounts of silica in their ash. So the water seeped through that ash and carried mostly that silica slowly down into that buried, decomposing tree. And that tree absorbed that soupy mass of water and minerals like a sponge. Just kept seeping in and seeping in and seeping in. And over the course of 1,000 to a few thousand years, replaced every cell in that tree with the minerals in the volcanic ash. That's how the process took place. Now, it's not exclusively silica, but predominantly silica. Like I said, on some of the trees, you're going to see an orangish hue in there. As telling us that iron is probably the second most prominent mineral. Then there's minor amounts of magnesium and different things that have got in there too. But it's predominantly silica replacement. Okay?
So how, I
guess that's why the ring, you can still see the rings. And the
cell by
markings.
cell.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a quick, it was just every cell. So that took a long time. That's when we see these stumps over here, you get some really good close-ups. Okay. So that's how the process took place. Now on some, remember that sparkly druzy quartz on the first one? I pointed out that stump. Okay, that's called druzy quartz. How that forms is after every cell of that tree had been replaced by minerals over 1,000 or a few thousand years estimated. In some cases, more minerals had saturated in than cells left to replace. So those minerals had nothing to replace, so they simply crystallized where they stood. That's how that sparkly druzy quartz forms. Okay. Now, so that, like the iron, some of the trees have them, more of them don't, but you will see that on some of the trees, being a nice sunny day like today. You don't see that on an overcast or rainy day. Now, any questions so far?
Do you still get scientists coming here?
Oh, yeah.
And sorry, you also said animals were caught in that?
Well, most things burnt up. The only real animals that have been found and survived are like bugs and worms that were actually in the tree. They were part of the petrification process. And a saber-toothed tiger walker.